Welcome to DesignerDigitals Bi-Weekly Tip, January 26, 2018. This week, how to make chevron or zigzag paper from diagonally striped paper in Photoshop and Elements. This week, we're continuing a series on using digital papers creatively. A good basic set of papers is a really smart investment when you know how to transform a simple paper into a more complex design. You'll look at striped papers with new eyes when you see how easy it is to convert them to zigzag chevron papers in Photoshop and Elements. To begin, open a piece of diagonally striped digital paper. I find that this technique works best when you use evenly striped designs. Sometimes when a stripe is wider than another stripe, you get into a little bit of a complex situation. So for the sample, I used a striped paper from the Cameron Essential Papers by Katie Petit. Select the paper document and get the rectangular marquee tool. It's usually the second tool down, and you can either get it by clicking on it, rectangular marquee tool, or you can press the letter M on your keyboard. Once you have the tool, draw out a rectangle from the top of the paper all the way down to the bottom of the paper. For the sample, my rectangle is about 1.5 inches wide and it's 12 inches long. Press Ctrl-J or on a Mac system Command-J on your keyboard. And this makes a little rectangle selection, a layer that is above the paper layer. So if you look over in the Layers panel, you've got your background and then you've got the rectangle that you just created with the marquee tool. Now open a new 12 by 12 inch document. Go to File, New, or in Photoshop Elements, go to File, New, Blank File, and then fill in the New Document dialog box to create a 12 by 12 inch document at 300 pixels per inch. I'm using RGB color mode at 8-bit and a background content of white. It doesn't matter, you're going to cover it up. Now switch to the Move tool and drag the rectangle layer, so this little rectangle that you created, onto your new blank document. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag it all the way over to the left, and I'm going to minimize the original paper because it's just in the way at this point. Make sure that your rectangle covers the entire top to bottom. You can resize it a little bit if it doesn't. And now with that rectangle selected, press Ctrl-J or Command-J if you're on a Mac system on your keyboard. Now you'll have two rectangle layers above the background here in your Layers panel. Select the top layer, that's the new one that you just made, and choose Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. If you're working in Photoshop Elements, choose Image, Rotate, and then scroll down to Flip Layer Horizontal. Still using the Move tool, drag the layer to the right of the original strip. So I'm just going to drag it over until it matches up to the original strip, making a mountaintop or a point pattern. You can zoom in to check for accuracy, because sometimes, for whatever reason, the software makes it look like there's a gap between them when there isn't. So this is looking good to me. Everything looks like it's matching up top to bottom, and I'll zoom back out. Holding the Control key, or on a Mac system the Command key, select both of the rectangle layers in your Layers panel. And once they're highlighted, drag them to the Create a New Layer icon in the Layers panel. It's down below in Photoshop, and in Elements it's up above. It looks like a little post-it note with a turned up corner. Now you'll see that you have 4 rectangle strips in your Layers panel. The top 2 will be highlighted, so hold the Shift key and drag both layers to the right, and then stop when it matches up with the original strips of paper and makes a new mountaintop pattern. Again, I'm going to zoom in to make sure that I've got it matching just right. And I don't have a gap, even though sometimes it makes it look like there's a gap when you're zoomed out. I'm going to zoom back out, and everything's looking good, and you can kind of see here that it looks like there's a gap, but when we zoom in, we know that there's not. Continue creating the chevron pattern by control-clicking all 4 of the rectangle layers in the Layers panel and then dragging them to the Create a New Layer icon. Now you've got 8 rectangles above your background. Using the Move tool, again, you're going to drag this over to the right and match it up. And again, I'll zoom in to make sure that I have things just perfectly aligned. That looks perfect there, and I'll zoom back out. Repeat the process until your document is full of chevron stripes. If for some reason the pattern doesn't reach the edges of the page, just get the crop tool and draw out a square that crops away any part of the paper that somehow didn't get covered with the chevron designs. Next, choose File, Save As from the menu bar, and save your document as a JPEG file so that it will be flattened and ready to use. Give it a good descriptive name, and you can even save it in the same paper pack that contains the stripe paper that you used. Using this rectangular strip method, you can double a paper pack, making chevron papers that perfectly coordinate with the striped papers in the set. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to check back in 2 weeks for the next Designer Digitals tip.